Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse. This is a bit of an oddish cool-down week. Well, we'll see. And it's Billboard BREAKDOwn. I don't remember. There are post-album bomb weeks that tend to be very difficult to deal with, and interestingly, this is not one of those weeks, but not quite for the reasons you might think. Not because there's a sudden influx of new arrivals to fill in the gaps, it's the middle of January, it's cold as butt, the release schedule's pretty bare, or that the album bomb just took up a lot of space naturally as it fades. No, this is the rare album bomb that gained position, and when I'm saying that, I'm referring specifically to Bad Bunny, who saw major pickups for Debitará Más Fotos to the point where some of the viral traction could challenge for the #1 to come. You gotta wonder if he actually dropped the album on Friday instead of Sunday, he might have seen more immediate groundswell, but you know what, given how much critical acclaim the album has seen so early, maybe allowing it to feel a little more organic, playing by his rules, works to his advantage. Kinda wish I liked the album more in that lane. I mean, it's good, it's just not resonating as deeply as I would hope. But to get into more of that, the top 10, where for another week, Die With a Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars is holding the #1. And this is an interesting case where it doesn't have a proper edge in either streaming or the radio, but it's got enough there, plus some consistency, plus sales in order to hold its own. And it's gonna need that, because we got two Bad Bunny songs right behind them. DTMF, effectively the title track, at #2, and Balle Inavoidable at #3, both here on surging streaming and little else. They elbowed past a bar song Tipsy at #4, which is steadily falling off across the board but does have some residual inertia on its side at the moment, and that might be put in danger compared to Apartment by Rosé and Bruno Mars at #5, which is dominant on sales, has a lot of radio traction, and is mostly holding up on streaming. That's also kind of the case for Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA at #6, just with better streaming and worse radio growth. And both are chasing over Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish at #7, which is on a slow but expected decline on the streaming and the radio. Then we got another Bad Bunny track with Nueva Yol at #8. Again, chalk it up to streaming and my poor Spanish, but it also did push past Lose Control by Teddy Swims at #9, even if I would argue it's been on a very slow decline anyway. Finally, we got That's So True by Gracie Abrams at #10, where the radio and streaming traction are definitely there, it's just not winning enough on any margin to really make a lot of headway, especially when Bad Bunny can just swamp the competition on pretty much streaming alone. And that naturally will take us to our losers and our dropouts, where outside of the Lil Baby album bomb, remember him, there's, well, only two big dropouts in the latter category, with $1 Million Baby by Tommy Richmond. It's finally making its exit alongside Lies, Lies, Lies by Morgan Wallen. And the losers, they largely follow a similar group, so let's handle the Lil Baby songs here first. Dumb, Dumb and Dumber with Young Thug and Futures at 61, Stuff with Travis Scott at 83, By Myself with Rilo Rodriguez featuring Rod Wave at 89, FU 2 Times at 94, and Outfit at 98. The rest of our losers mostly feel like older songs that had their run already. Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar at 33, I Am Not Okay by Jelly Roll at 43, Wind Up Missing You by Tucker Wetmore at 44, and Please 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 by Sabrina Carpenter at 47. And now I guess we should include the songs that just don't seem to have a ton of traction, like What You Know About Me by Glorilla featuring Sexy Red at 37, which is likely still gonna clinch a year-end list spot, I guess. It's Okay, I'm Okay by Tate McRae at 73, that probably won't get that spot, and Smile by Morgan Wallen losing all of its gains from last week down at 16, mostly because it seems radio really has not taken to it. Not all that surprising. Now this takes us to our returns and gains, and across the board, with very few exception, it looks like it's a majority of Spanish music, not from Bad Bunny. Yeah, 25 by Rod Wave is back at 95, and The Largest by Big X The Plug came back at 92, but our other returns are K by Raul Alejandro and Romeo Santos at 86, and both Nandi and Rosanis by Tito Double P at 85 and 84 respectively. And it's a similar case for our gains, because outside of a few near the very bottom, it's nearly all Bad Bunny. So let's run through that small group first. Dos Dias by Peso Pluma and Tito Double P at 87. Popular from the Wicked soundtrack at 81. Diet Pepsi by Addison Rae at 80. Peekaboo by Kendrick Lamar and AZ Chike at 79. Part of a Woman by Summer Walker at 77. I Ain't Sayin' by Jordan Davis at 70. Denial is a River by Doechii off the debut to 65. And Bad Dreams by Teddy Swims likely getting a boost ahead of his project at 64. But we got a lot of Bad Bunny ahead of us, so outside of the top 10 entries I've already mentioned, and again, apologies for my bad Spanish, I am trying here. Lo que le paso a Hawaii at 62. Que Pasaria with Raul Alejandro at 57. It's from Raul Alejandro's album, I figure it fits. La Mudanza at 51. Pitarro de Coco at 50. Café con Ron with Los Pleneros de la Cresta at 48. Turista at 45. Bocate at 42. Clo Friends at 40. Que tu tigre at 38. Wiltita with Chewy at 32. Perfumito Nuevo with Right Now at 31. El Club at 27. EO at 24. Velda with Omar Courts and Dave V at 23. And Voy a Levante pa Puerto Rico at 17. That actually leads into a pretty small list of new arrivals, including one that I have been looking forward to for some time now. Number 100, Headlock by Imogen Heap.
I don't believe any of it. You say too late to start with your heart in a headlock. You know you're better than this.
It's legit insane this is charting, damn near 20 years after it was first released, and the circumstances behind it charting might be even stranger, so let me provide the introduction. For those who don't know, Imogen Heap is an indie pop electronica singer-songwriter who's been active since the late 90s, but in 2005 released the classic album Speak For Yourself. And it's not just me calling it a classic, there are a lot of acts in modern pop who adore Imogen Heap, from Taylor Swift to Ariana Grande. She's one of your favorite artist, and that's not even counting how many times she's been sampled in hip-hop. There's a vast history there. Now, she hasn't been that active since the supremely underrated album Sparks in 2014. A lot more work behind the scenes, composing, and in technology, but late last year, this song started going viral thanks to Mouthwashing, a particularly twisted psychological horror game, and that later translated to TikTok, and now here we are. Now, this was actually the third single from Speak For Yourself, and actually had a brief chart run in the UK, but now that it's finally here, yeah, duh, it's fantastic. I sure as hell am not gonna complain. I love the brittle glitter of the synth playing off the buzzy pulse and borderline gothic strings and vocal embellishments on the hook, and then adding in some of the bells on the outro. That just makes sense. And I love how Imogen Heap really stacks up her vocal overdubs, where the delicate cooing warps towards something that's more surreal and alien and honestly pretty dark. And that's apropos for a song that's trying to compel someone to find positivity in their life, and it sounds a little more like a goading challenge that's designed to piss somebody off, capture the tangible fear of doing better. It's almost uncanny. It's a sort of note-perfect nuance from one of the most criminally underrated artists in pop music, and I love that this charted. Phenomenal song. Number 99, Forever Young by David Guetta, Alphaville, and Ava Max.
Forever young.
Do you really want to live forever? Forever.
Talk about a drop-off from Headlock to fucking this. So let me get this straight. Because David Guetta doesn't have any more original ideas, he's just gonna keep leaping from obnoxious sample to sample, and this might be one of his worst. Because I remember It's way too well from Jay-Z's Young Forever with Mr. Hudson off the Blueprint 3. One of Jay-Z's worst albums, and it's one of the worst songs on said album. Some of Kanye West's worst ever production that has aged really badly, and Jay-Z sounds like he's sleepwalking. Kind of a shame because the original Forever Young is a pretty decent power ballad from early 80s German synth pop, so naturally you add a generic snapping pulse that sounds cribbed from Kygo's Garbage Bin before the overly stiff synthesizers and the underweight groove comes in, and you swap out some of the apocalyptic melancholy and melodrama for the most generic dance-ready slush where even Ava Max sounds like she'd rather be anywhere else. And as someone who has actually stuck up for Ava Max for years now, I hate admitting how she hasn't lived up to any of that potential, but yeah, if she doesn't even sound like she cares, why should I? And unless this rides out the remnants of David Guetta's radio clout, you probably will not have to care about this either. It blows. Move on. Number 97, The Days by CHRYSTAL.
Was it the other way?
Okay, more context is required with this one. The original version of the song is a pretty generic house cut from a UK producer who had a little bit of success in the 2010s over in the UK and pretty much just there, but the buzz petered out really quickly. She worked more in house and garage, but after getting signed to her label tried to push her more towards pop or alternative R&B, and that didn't really work, so she left the label in 2019, and she's worked behind the scenes until, well, about now. Now, this song actually dates all the way back to 2015. It's from a compilation called Unarchived 2015, but it caught a little bit of viral traction specifically for a lot of the remixes. Most notably from Notion, which ramps up the tempo, and then some of the garage-inspired percussion. But I would struggle to say it makes it that much better. Still kind of feels dated. The pitched-up vocals aren't really as charming. The flat, buzzy synth behind it starts grating as the percussion chops it up. And for a song about remembering and longing to hook up with an ex, it's not exactly flattered by this chirpy, up-tempo version. Yeah, there's a little bit more going on in the original, but I wouldn't say it's exactly better, or even that it's good. More tedious and forgettable than outright grating, though. Whatever, take it or leave it. Number 91, Bigger Houses by Dan and Shay.
What you got still not enough. The thing about happiness I found is it don't live in bigger houses.
So let me get this straight. We're now pushing Dan and Shay songs from the summer of 2023 to charting now. The title track from the album that year. I mean, it shouldn't surprise anyone. The only reason this is charting at all is radio and a desperate push for this to land on the Hot 100. I got no expectations it's gonna last beyond this week. If you check national radio, it's already fallen off. And, okay, look. I could probably nitpick the hell out of this one. I think the rhyme of found is with houses is clunky on the hook. The lack of a bridge kind of annoys me. And the attempt to add a little more meat to the harder strums on the final hook is damn near embarrassing. But maybe it's just me. The whole be comfortable with less, wealth doesn't bring you happiness, it's got a lot more diminishing returns in the current economy, especially when it's being sung by two guys who can't convey any of the grit that might come along with the struggle of living out that way. Yeah, the homespun warm acoustics are nice. I don't dislike the pretty stock harmonies either. They at least come across as sincere in selling it, but I'm sorry, none of it sticks for me. It feels like the tranquil defeat in the face of changing anything by those who have already made it. Again, no expectations it's gonna stick around. It's already fading on the radio. Maybe we're better off for that. Skip it. And finally, number 59, Are You Even Real by Teddy Swims and Giveon.
Are you made up in my head or are you in my bedroom? Questions that I asked ever since I met you.
So one thing I mentioned in my main channel, in my top 10 best hit songs of 2024, the video got taken down at the moment on the main channel because Empire will routinely flaunt fair use stipulations in violation of law in multiple jurisdictions, even if I'm praising the music. Whatever, hopefully the video will be back up in around a week. It's that Teddy Swims did a lot to win me over by working with other notable acts in R&B, filling in guest appearances and giving some really solid performances. So seeing him with Giveon, who had a moment in 2021, but whose album in 2022 didn't really inspire that much moment, it kind of had me intrigued, and yet, man, this is exactly the lesson I didn't want him to learn from Lose Control, defaulting to a stock 6/8 love song with the weediest fragment of guitar with incredibly brittle percussion and very limited groove, all designed to put all the emphasis on the vocals. And yeah, sure, these guys are good, even great singers, but the collaboration feels very thin. The sort of love song where the sentiment's sweet, but there's not a lot of warmth or depth to really stick for me. Not saying it's bad, but it's just not very interesting. The sort of cosign that might do something to give Giveon some attention, maybe help drive more to that upcoming Teddy Swims project. I am curious about it, just not really anything more. Gotta say it. And that's our week. A little bit abbreviated, but after last week, I am just fine with something being a little bit easier. It's not like I'm not busy. And the best and worst fall out incredibly fast, with Headlock by Imogen Heap just running away with the top spots, while Forever Young by David Guetta, Alphaville, and Ava Max easily gets the bottom spot. Next week, you know what? I don't know. I expect it to be pretty quiet unless the Bad Bunny album sees more fall off or escalation than I expect. We will have to see. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.